Hello and welcome to Intuitive Nature, the podcast. My name is Susan Jane and I believe that trusting your intuition is the best way to live your life with meaning and purpose. Each week you will hear about how you can connect, develop and trust your intuition through meditations, readings and my own personal experiences. Join me to understand how your intuition can guide you towards a life full of meaning and loving purpose. Hello and welcome to Intuitive Nature, the podcast. I'm Susan Jane, the Intuitist, and I'll be your host for this intuition and spirituality series. This episode is 1.26, A Time for Intuitive Courage. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, you will know where I'm at as far as what was happening around my house or around this area. So we have had my partner's son living with us who has had a drug problem. And he not only has one addiction, he's probably got 3 or 4 addictions currently. The reason he came to live with us, to stay with us, is he got kicked out of his home where his partner is and their 6-month-old baby. Now, he came under our roof on the proviso that he was booking into a detox and to rehab. Now, he said he had, but as you would be aware, or most people are aware, people that take drugs or have addictions do chronically lie, and this is what had happened with us. Now, of course, we're aware of it and you get the understanding, and they do enough to keep you believing, but that wasn't enough. So last week I did explain to you what was going on and how it was affecting me and how my intuition was helping me get through this crisis. On Monday, he was booked in for detox, and as soon as he does his detox, which was something like 7 to 10 days, he would then go directly to rehab. So the weekend went through and it was pretty intense for us. We had to try and keep him entertained and keep him moving and keep him occupied so he didn't, his nerves were getting to him. He knew what he was facing. He knew where he was going and what he had to do. So consequently, he was like right on the end of his tether. Monday morning came and my partner got him all ready and organised to take him in. Now, our idea was that we have 2 options here. Today, Monday, that day was the day. And that day, either he went into detox and we started his journey to recovery, or we dropped him back at a homeless shelter because he had nowhere else to go. So these were the decisions that we had to make. This was the courage that we had to step into ourselves in order to be strong enough to help him. He wasn't strong enough to do it himself. He needed that support and we had to do it. Now, there was a lot of things that happened that were not conducive to our beliefs and our understandings, but we had to waver them to get him through. It was like this time frame over the weekend where we just kept on going, we've just got to get it to Monday. We just need to get to Monday. And the support and everything else had to be around that. On Sunday, the day before, my partner took him to, he was actually just going to take him out for the day just to keep him busy. So they were going to go for a walk in the forest up in the mountains. They were going to do lunch and different things like that. Well, the young man turned around and said to his father that he wanted to go to Shenrizig, which is a Buddhist Buddhist area in the Sunshine Coast. So it's about a 3-hour drive from here, but that's where he wanted to go. Now, they've been there before. We've all been there a few times. And we just loved the peace and the serenity there. My partner thought that was a wonderful idea because they all love Shenrizig, so they were happy to go there. And it was just the 2 of them. I chose not to go. I didn't want. They needed their time together. So they went there, and when they got back, apparently it was just very, very enlightening. They had a great encounter with one of the monks there, a younger female monk and an older female monk, and everything just, the synchronicity was just so beautiful. It was just so surreal that we really could see a light at the end of the tunnel. But again, we were still quite nervous about the next day, the Monday. Anyway, all of this time, I intuitively wanted him to succeed. There was times I wanted to give up. Honestly, it was just got so hard. But intuitively, I just really did want him to succeed, knowing if he succeeds, it also takes the pressure off my partner. So it was really important that, we get this working and get this happening. So on the Monday, they packed up the car and they went to the hospital. Now, my partner was going to go to work after that. He believed he had to be there by 8 o'clock in the morning, and he believed he'd be out by, say, 9:30 and back at work. They sat in that waiting room, in the waiting area, watching what was going on for 3 hours before he was admitted. And I'm so proud to say he went in, he admitted himself, and he went in, and we can't contact him, we can't talk to him, he's not allowed to have the phone, anything like that. So he's there, he's on his own. And for this podcast, I just wanted to talk about the courage it took, not only for this young man to step forward and do that, but the courage my partner took to support him, to go against things that he didn't like, just in order to get this young man through. So I'm sorry, this is not going to be a pleasant podcast. I've got some stuff I need to get off my chest, and this has brought it all up. With the situation that's going on here, it brought back a lot of memories for myself. When I was going through my abusive relationship, my marriage, 20-year marriage, my ex-husband's daughter was also experiencing a lot of mental health issues. She had 3 little boys. They were younger than my kids, obviously a lot younger than my kids. And as she struggled with her mental health, and she was only taking marijuana, but she was addicted to it. As she was going through her mental health issues, I had to step in a lot of the times, and watching what we went through just recently, it just brought all those memories back. And this podcast is about courage, and there's a few things I want to put forward. To start with, the courage to talk about it, because, mate, this is not going to be easy. I haven't spoken to many people about this, and it was a decision I had to make, and watching this young man have to make that decision to face his demons and step in there when you're sober, when you're straight, when you've got no support. You don't feel like you've got the support, and you feel you've got to face these the drugs or the demons. It takes so much courage. You need to be so strong. You have no idea. We watch these people that are on drugs, and you sort of get grumpy and crappy with them because they rob and they steal and they lie and they do everything wrong. But then you watch them face that, and you watch them step through that, and it's just incredible. You just don't realise it until you step back and you go, wow, what courage that takes to face something that you've just has been your only thought for the last how many years, and you've got to face that and say no to it. It's just incredible. And I had to experience not that situation, but a different situation when I've had to step up to the courage as well. And it isn't easy. I found it really, really difficult. So when my stepdaughter was experiencing a lot of mental health, there was times there when I had to take her children on board. Now, I say I had to because she had nowhere else to go. They had nowhere else to go, and they were family. I couldn't let them go. Even though they weren't my blood, I just could not let these kids suffer any more than they had. The father had left, and Mum was on her own, and she was battling, and I mean battling, with mental health. I don't know how many times I had to front up. I had to leave my children to front up and help her get through some nasty situations. There was times when I had to take her into the mental health ward, and there was times when I had to talk her into going there, so she went on her own. But there was a few times, but one particular time I had the children for 6 weeks. So for that period of time, I was not only had my own 3, I had her 3, and I was trying to get them to school and keep their life as normal as possible while they went in and visited their mum, and look after my children and keep their life as normal as possible while we lived in this sort of situation. Now, unfortunately, my partner, as I have expressed before, drank a lot. He had his own addictions, and consequently I did most of this on my own. So it was very challenging. It was very hard. And this wasn't a year or two. This went over 10, 15 years of her experiencing all these situations. And with it, she would have her highs and her lows. And this is where I really, deep down, I had to really start to trust my intuition. I had to trust my feelings and what I was experiencing. I had to trust that I was doing the right thing. There was one particular time when we were sitting on the gutter, and my kids were a little bit older, so they could watch the younger ones, her younger ones, and I just sat there. I was probably there for a couple of hours, talking her into going into the mental health unit to help her out. And why I was doing that was because she threatened not only to take her life several times, but to take the children's life as well. So there was some really hard times, and this last couple of weeks it's just brought it all back. But my hardest time, and this will be a short podcast because I'm not going to deal with this very well. My hardest time, I had split up with my ex. My kids had left home, and I was living in a granny flat, going to uni and working 3 part-time jobs. And she contacted me again, and she had gone very dark again, very depressed, and she was threatening to drive over a cliff with the kids in the car and wanted me to do something about it. And I just really, really struggled with it. My life had completely changed. I was no longer with her father, and I was no longer in a position to take her children. I was in a 1-room granny flat, and I couldn't take her children. I didn't have the funds to do it. I didn't have the space to do it. I didn't have my own house anymore. It was rented out. So she basically just left me with the children. I ended up getting a phone call from the Department of Services saying that the kids are here. Can I pick them up? And I had to say no. I had to say no. I had to stop. she had left the kids with me so many times and just, I couldn't deal with it any longer. I had to say no. My courage had to come out. I knew that I couldn't keep going along like this, and she couldn't. She knew that if things got bad, she just left them with me and wasn't stepping up on her behalf and wasn't stepping up and saying what she needed to say and do what she needed to do. She talked the talk but wasn't walking the walk. So she was saying all the right things but not going along and doing it. And the kids were suffering once again. But this time I couldn't do anything about it. And so I had to go down to New South Wales and I had to put the children into the care of foster parents. I'll never forget their faces. To have to turn these kids over was so hard, was so wrong. And this is where the courage had to come through, because I didn't know what else to go or where else to turn to, so I had to face my demons and say no. And hand these little kids over. Oh, mind you, they weren't so little then, but they still were needing care. I don't even know whether I'll put this podcast up. Anyway, we all have to face our fears, our demons, and I've not had to experience anything like that. And at the time, it was so logical. There's nothing I could do. But I guess it's now that I feel I wish I could have done more. I feel like I wish I could have done more, but I just couldn't. You get to the end of the tether and you just can't do any more. And that's how I could see this young man. He had got to the end of his tether. He had got to the stage where there was nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be. He had to face those demons. He had to face it and make a big decision in his life. And it's not easy to make these decisions. And that's where our intuition will really help us. Because if we know it's the right thing intuitively, then we know we're on the right path, and that's where we need to go. And that is how I felt with the situation that I'd been put into. I felt I had to do that. I felt that's the only way I needed to go. And I forgot to turn my phone off. So when you're facing these situations, when you're getting to the end of your tether, when you feel that there's nowhere else to go, we've got to stand up. We've got to have the courage to stand up and face it. And with the situation that I was in, I knew it was going to be so hard and so challenging, but I also knew I could not do it anymore. There had to be changes made. There had to be something different. When we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, we're going to get the same result. We have to change something for there to be a different result. So it is having the courage to step forward and making that change. And it is not easy. It was hard for this young man. It was so hard for me having to sign the paperwork to put these kids into foster care, because I knew I couldn't look after them, and I knew if those kids went into some sort of care, some sort of protection, then she had to do something with her life. And she has. She has turned it around. She hasn't got the kids back. She can't have the kids back, but she sees them all the time and they're always together. So it wasn't until I did that that she started to make the real changes that she needed to make her life better. So there was a positive. It was hard, it was challenging, and I really doubt that those kids had it easy. But there needed to be a change, and it wasn't up to me to decide how that change was going to happen. It was only up to me to decide how I was going to change, what I was going to do. And the rest I had to let go. This young man's done the same. He can only change what he does. He can only change how he looks at it. And that's when he knows, and that's when you know it's the right thing to do. So with the link to intuition, the link to courage, I honestly believe that when you feel it's the right thing to do, when you know in your heart that it's the right thing to do, then you will have the courage, you will find the courage to step up and do it. When you know it's right. And that's really following your gut, following your intuition. That's following what your spirit is telling you that you need to do. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this young man, and hopefully he gets through this okay, and then through the detox and through the rehab. Hopefully the rehab will keep him on track. Now I know I'm not naive. I do know that there's lots of relapses that happen and things like that. But I also saw him after he came back from Shenrezig, and he looked glowy. You could still see the demons around him, but he looked so much better. And while he's away, we're doing a big cleanse of the house. We've got the white sage. We're giving it all a big clean, trying to get rid of it. I know downstairs in the garage there's a lot of dark entity down there we're getting rid of. And I'll talk you through that at another time. But I do apologise a little bit for the blubbering. I know that was a real challenge for me, because I feel sort of guilty that I handed these kids over, but I know it was still the right thing. So the guilt's probably more about my ego, because you're not supposed to do that. It's probably more ego related than anything else, because deep down I really do know I needed to do something different in order for her to do something different, in order for her to make her life better and make those kids' lives better. So they've got their mum back now, which is really nice. Two of them, actually they're in their 20s now. I think the youngest one's probably 17 or 18. So yeah, that's the podcast for today. I don't think I can get through any more than that. I'm a bit of a blubbering mess. But I have started my, what do I call it? The coaching. I'm doing intuitive coaching. I've been putting it together. As you know, I do this. Intuitive nature is my passion. I love sharing that. I love helping people. And that's my passion. I do have 2 other jobs. And so this isn't a thing that I do for money. However, I have been getting a lot of people wanting to do coaching with me, like intuitive coaching. I'm not quite ready to go there yet, fully there, even though I've done life coaching. I've got other things I want to put forward first. So on the Facebook group Emotional Mastery, I am going to start doing readings. Now, the readings I do are flower readings, and I have had this issue with it, because a lot of my friends do card readings, and I have a little deck of flower cards, but I don't want to do flower readings by the cards, because they've got words on them. So when you're actually doing a card reading like that, you're reading the word, and I don't want to do that, because I do flower readings. I read the flower. Consequently, I needed cards or something with flowers on it and nothing else. And the old little light bulb moment, the intuition kicked in. I have thousands of flower photos that I started taking for my book. So my book, Intuitive Flowers, Empowering Your Emotional Goals. It's all about how flower readings help you trust your intuition. So you start to do flower readings and it teaches you how to trust your intuition. It makes you feel more confident in yourself. Intuitive Flowers is about learning how to do flower readings. And I took all these photos because as I'm writing the book, I wanted to have these images in there so you could see when I was talking about these images. So I've got all these images and I said to my partner, what I'll do is I'll print them out and have my own photos and cards, and I can use them that way. But I've gone one step further because I like doing flower readings from images online. I'm going to do it all online. So basically you'll have an area you want to pick, like relationships, or it could be finances or personal growth. So we'll have an area that you can choose, and then basically you'll pick a number between 1 and 100, and that will be your flower image, and then we can do a reading on it. So I'm going to do something like that on Emotional Mastery. Join up Emotional Mastery. Oh my goodness, so I'm so sorry. I'm very slobbery still. Join the Facebook group Emotional Mastery, and we'll have a look at our flower readings on there, and that will give you an understanding of what that's all about. One of the other areas, I'll just quickly touch on this. One of the reasons why I did flower readings, or why I wanted to do a book to teach people how to do flower readings, was when I did meet my partner, and one of the reasons why we've gone through what we have, he used to go to a few different readers, and he went to this gentleman once, and this gentleman turned around and told him that his firstborn would not make old bones. Now, when you get a reading like that, and his firstborn was only a young child, it has played on his mind for all this time. Now, his firstborn is now 26, just gone into detox and rehab. Hopefully we go through all that. So all of this time, this has been playing on his mind that he is not going to reach old bones. He's not going to reach old bones. All this time, my partner has been concerned that he is either going to overdose or commit suicide. So he has been beside himself. And I've had this happen before with other readers. They've just sort of blurted out stuff without thinking about the consequences of what they're saying. Now, someone's said to me, but, if that's what you get, then that's what you say. You know, if you're getting these messages, you need to say it. And I say, no, bull, you don't. And there's ways to say things. And there's information that we receive all the time. We don't have to share it all the time. That's not what it's about. So my idea was, when somebody's doing a card reading, they need to be so mindful of the information that they're handing out because of the consequences of that information. Yes, sure, we have free will and we can change it. But when you focus on something, you know that that's what you're going to get. And if you're focusing on something negative, that's what you're going to get. So please, please be mindful of that. And the reason why I started the book, or got the book so people could start to do their own readings, was so they could start to trust themselves without having to go to a reader all the time and rely on them or get information from them. So this was all about empowering themselves. And that's why I did the book. That's why I don't do so many flower readings. It's not about me doing the flower readings. It's about you learning about yourself through your intuition, through these visual images of flowers. So now I'm going to get off my high horse or my soapbox, and I am going to let you go with that. So today was all about just facing your demons, the courage to do that, and how we know when it's the right thing to do, when we feel it, when we know it's coming from our intuition and it feels right. You got to go against a lot of things the ego is saying, which is what it was doing to me. We've got to go against what the ego is saying, and we've got to really follow our intuition. So that's what it was all about today. I thank you so much for listening. I do apologise again for all the blubbering. You will get used to that. I don't do it all the time, but I do it occasionally. And it's all a little bit new, this for me. So stay strong. Learn to get in touch with your intuition and start to trust it. And you can do that through flower readings and lots of other ways. Jump onto the Facebook Emotional Mastery group. Jump onto there, and I am going to be starting to do interviews for the podcast. So it's not just me. And I hope to start that early December. I've already got a few people lined up, very much on the coachal, spiritual side. So really, it's going to be really exciting. If you've got anything you want to put forward, send me an email, info@intuitivenature.com.au, and we will try and get those any questions and things like that answered for you, because there's lots of other ladies coming on board, and at this stage there's ladies because that's what I was in that group. But if you do want any more information or an understanding about trusting your intuition, subscribe to the podcast or follow me on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, or jump onto the website intuitivenature.com.au and check out the blogs and the free resources. Now, the Facebook group called Emotional Mastery, again, that's where I'll start to do some lives on there, and that's where I'm going to start doing these readings. So all you need to do is put down what area you want to do and pick a number between 1 and 100. And you guys know it first. So whoever's listening to the podcast gets the opportunity to do it first. But it'll be a couple of weeks before I start that. Jump on there and you'll get a good understanding. And remember, we are all naturally intuitive. It is part of human nature. It is our intuitive nature. I'm Susan Jane, the Intuitist from Intuitive Nature, and I do thank you for listening. I am going to say bye for now. See you next week. Bye.